With these lessons we're going to learn how to tune the guitar, but before we start there are a few things you need to know. So we'll learn the names of the strings, we'll look at the terms we use when moving around the neck, we'll look at tones and semitones, sharps and flats, and the symbols we use for each, what they are and how to relate them to the guitar. We'll learn the chromatic scale. Now we won't be playing it, we'll learn what it is, what the notes are, how to go up and down the scale using tones and semitones. Then we'll look at how to tune the guitar using 3 different tuners. Now I'll also do a quick guide to tuning, so if you want you can jump straight into playing and you can come back and watch these other lessons at a later date. So let's jump in. So I put in this quick guide to tuning, so if you want to jump in and start playing straight away you can. You can come back and watch the rest of the tuning videos at a later date. So before you start we must know the names to the open strings, so E, A, D, G, B and E. Make sure when you're tuning, you're turning the right tuning peg. If you're holding the wrong one, there's a good chance you'll break the string of the one you're turning. Now when we tune, we don't use our left hand on the fretboard, so hang on to the tuning peg the whole time. When you're tuning, little movements. If you're doing full turns, your tuner will be jumping all over the place. Last tip, if your tuning pegs are on the top, anti-clockwise to tighten the string and raise the pitch, clockwise to loosen the string and lower the pitch. The tuning pegs on the bottom are the opposite, so clockwise to tighten, anti-clockwise to loosen. So let's tune the guitar. So the first thing I do is play the open string. We'll start on the top E string and work our way down. Now I have to make sure the string is at the right pitch, so I'm playing the E string so the tuner has to say E. And you can see there it's saying E, so I'm right to go. Once I've done that, then I fine tune the string. So I have to get the needle in the middle or on 0. If it's on the left hand side of the 0, the note is flat and has to be tightened. If I'm on the right hand side of the 0, the note is sharp and has to be loosened. So you can see I'm on the left hand side of the 0, so I have to tighten my string up. Little movements. And I'm right there. Once you've done that, give the string a pull and do it again. Now let's try the A string, 5 up from the bottom. So the tuner's saying A, so the string's in the right pitch. I've just got to fine tune now. It's flat again, so on the left hand side of the 0, so I have to tighten my string. Give the string a pull and go again. And that one's right to go. Now the D string, 4 up from the bottom. My tuner's saying D, so I'm all right there. I'm on the left hand side again, so I need to tighten the string. And I'm in the middle, give the string a pull. And we're right there. Now the top 3 strings, all the notes were flat. Let's have a go at tuning if the notes are sharp. So I'll start on my G string, 3 up from the bottom. So my tuner's saying G, so the string's in the right pitch. This time the needle's on the right hand side of the 0, so the note is sharp, so I have to loosen the string. Now when a note's sharp, make it flat, then come back up to the note. It'll hold tune better. So past the 0 and back up to it. When I'm in the middle, give the string a pull and try again. Now let's do the B string, 2 up from the bottom. My tuner's saying B, but again I'm sharp, so I flatten the string and come back to the middle. Give the string a pull and try again. And my last one, my bottom E. My tuner says E, but my needle is on the right hand side, so I have to loosen. So go past the middle, make the note flat, and then come back up. And that's right there. So that was a quick guide to tuning. Every time you play, tune your guitar. When you've been playing for a while, come back and watch all the videos to tuning. So it's pretty easy to name the strings of the guitar, and we'll do this two different ways. First with numbers. Now the guitar's a little counterintuitive. You'll think the top string would be number 1. It's actually the bottom string we call number 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the top string number 6. So all that means, if someone says play the first string, I go to the bottom string and I play that one. If I was to play the 5th string, I just count up 5 from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I play that string. We also use letters to name the strings, and these are called the notes. It identifies what pitch the string is. Starting from the bottom, that's an E string. Then we have the second from the bottom, or the second string, that's the B. As we go up again, our 3rd string, that's our G string. We have our D string, 4th, 5th string is the A, and our top string is also E. So it means when I want to play the B string, we just go to the 2nd string from the bottom and I play that one. We also call that an open string because we're not placing our fingers anywhere on the fretboard, we're just playing it with no fingers. We also refer to that as the B string even when we are placing our hand on the fretboard somewhere. It just means we're playing the B string, but it's not a B note anymore. We can also use the numbers and the letters. So if I want to identify what E I'm playing, I would say 1st string E, and that's the one I'd play. If I was to say the 6th string E, I'd then play the top string. Now let's use some acronyms to remember the notes. So starting from our top string, we have Eddie, 8, Dynamite, Goodbye, Eddie. So E, A, D, G, B, and E. Or if you want to, you can use elephant and donkeys grow big ears. So nice and easy. Now you need to remember the letters and the numbers. Guitarists refer to them both ways. So let's have a look at some other things we need to know before tuning. When you first start moving around the neck of the guitar, everything will feel opposite. We say move up the neck, and when we say that, we mean from the headstock to the body of the guitar, because we're talking about pitch. So we're saying from a low note up to a high note. Now this will feel wrong because the neck is sort of pointing upwards. It's also the same when we're moving down the neck. I'm starting from a high note and I'm moving down the neck to a low note. Also when we play vertically or we're using a scale, we say up the scale and down the scale. When I play up the scale, we're starting from a low note and I'm playing up to a high note. Down the scale is the same. I'm starting from a high note and playing down to a low note. So up the scale, down the scale, up the neck, down the neck. In music, we use terms such as tone or whole step and semitone or half step. All that means if I was on my 5th fret and I wanted to move up the neck a semitone, I'd go up to my 6th fret, so just 1 fret apart. I can also go down the neck, so back to the 5th fret, I'd move back down to the 4th fret, again 1 fret, and I've moved a semitone down the neck. Now if I was to move a tone starting on the 5th fret, this time it'd be 2 frets, so I'd go 5th fret, up the neck to the 7th fret, or 5th fret, go down the neck to the 3rd fret. Now this relates anywhere on the guitar. If I was on my top E string, 3rd fret, and moved up 1 fret, that's a semitone or a half step, back to the G, and moving back down a semitone, I'd be on my 2nd fret. If I did a tone, 3rd fret to 5th fret, up the neck, or 3rd fret to 1st fret, down the neck. So a semitone is 1 fret up or down the neck, a tone is 2 frets up or down the neck. Now I find a lot of beginners have problems with the open strings. If I was to play the open E string and I wanted to go up a semitone because I can't go down anymore because that's the lowest it'll go, I go to my first fret. So open to first fret, that's a semitone. If I want to move up the neck, a tone, I go from my first fret up to my second fret. So a semitone, open to first fret, same string, a tone, open to second fret on the same string. Let's also have a look at the D string. So 4 up from the bottom, I have my open string. A semitone from my open string would be on the first fret, same string. A tone from my D open string would be second fret on the same string. Now with the tones and semitones, on the open E string I can't go back anymore unless I drop tune. With the other open strings I can go back a semitone or a tone, but I have to go up to the next string. So don't worry about this, we'll look at that in a later course. Now let's take a look at our flats and sharps. A sharp is a little hashtag symbol and it comes after the letter, so we'd say A sharp. Also our flat is a little B symbol and that comes after the letter also, so we'd say A flat. Relating it to the guitar, if I was to take my 6th string, playing my 5th fret, that's an A note. If I was to move it forward, a semitone or a half step, so to the 6th fret, it's now A sharp. Whenever we're doing sharp, it's always moving up the neck towards the body. Whenever we're doing flat, it's always moving down the neck towards our head. Again, take my A, 5th fret, move it back to the 4th fret, now becomes A flat. So there's a bit of an odd thing with music. The sharps and flats fall on the same note. If I was to take the G on my top E string 3rd fret and move forward a semitone, that becomes G sharp. If I was to start on the 5th fret and then move back a semitone, that becomes A flat. So they're the same note, G sharp and A flat. Now we don't have a sharp or a flat between the B and the C and between the E and the F. This will all make more sense when we have a look at the chromatic scale. So to finish up, you may be wondering, do you say sharp or flat? So I have my G sharp or A flat, same note. So what do I say, A flat or G sharp? When you first start, it doesn't matter, they're both correct. It's not till a song is in key that we have to worry about sharp or flat. Now let's have a look at the chromatic scale. Another important thing we need to know before we start tuning is the chromatic scale. Now we can play this scale and it can be quite useful, but first we just need to know what the notes are and how to use it. Now the chromatic scale is a musical language we use to name all the notes. In Western music we have 12 notes or 12 different pitches, which are a semitone or a half step apart. So 1 fret forward or backward on the guitar. You can start the chromatic scale from any note, and the starting note we call the root note. So we'll start on the A and move up the scale. So we have A sharp, B, B to C, we have no sharp between B and C. Then we go C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, E to F, again we have no sharp between E and F. Then we have F sharp, G, G sharp. Then we just go back around to the A, so it just goes in a circular motion. Then we add in the flats, and as we spoke about, the sharps and flats are the same note. So if I was to go from my G note on the top string 3rd fret and move forward, it becomes G sharp. If I move forward again to my 5th fret, that's A, and if I move back, that becomes A flat. So G sharp and A flat are the same note. Now you may be wondering why there's no B sharp or C flat or E sharp or F flat. Music's just a language that's developed over hundreds of years, similar to English, where we have things like two, and two, or there, and there, and they're all spelt differently. Music's the same, they've just decided to leave these notes out. The names of the notes are fairly arbitrary. In reality, we have a 12-note scale, with each note being roughly the same distance in frequency from the note before. So moving around the chromatic scale, we use the semitones and tones. So if I was to move one semitone forward, A would become A sharp or B flat, because we know they're the same note. If I was to move back one semitone from E, it would become E flat or D sharp. Let's have a look at the end notes. This is where it can get a little more confusing. If I was to start on the A and move back a semitone, A becomes G sharp. If I was to start on the G sharp and move forward a semitone, G sharp becomes A. Let's also go over the tones, which will be 2 steps. So if I start on the C and I move the tone forward, C to C sharp is 1 step, C sharp to D. So C becomes D using a tone. If I was to move a tone back from G, G would become F. Let's have a look at the end notes. If I was to move a tone forward from G sharp, it would become A sharp. And if I was to move a tone back from A, it becomes G. Let's also go over moving between B and C and E and F. If I start on the B, I only have to move a semitone forward to get to C. If I move a tone from B, taking 2 steps, goes from B, C to C sharp. So B becomes C sharp with a tone. If I was to move a tone forward from E, E becomes F sharp. So a semitone is 1 step, a tone is 2 steps. Let's relate that to the guitar. If I was to start on the 3rd fret top string, that's a G note. If I was to move a semitone forward, so a semitone is always 1 fret, G would now become G sharp. So I've moved from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret. If I was to move a semitone back from G, become G flat. So 3rd fret to 2nd fret, G flat or F sharp. Now the tones are always 2 frets or 2 steps on the chromatic scale. So back on our G, I move up a tone, so I go to G sharp and then to A. So G to A, 2 frets. If I was to move back a tone, G, G flat or F sharp, back to F. So G to F. Now it gets a little more confusing with the open strings. If I was to start with my E top string and move a semitone forward, that would take me to the 1st fret, so E would now be F. If I was to do my A string, so 5 up from the bottom, move a semitone forward, takes me to my 1st fret, so A now becomes A sharp. If I was to do a tone from my open string, so back to our top E string, I have to move 2 frets, so E, F, F sharp. E is now F sharp, and on the A string, A, 2 frets, A sharp, B, so A becomes B. Now you may be wondering why we only have 12 notes on the chromatic scale, but we have 22 frets or 24 frets and 6 strings on the guitar. So the notes repeat themselves. I could take my E on the 7th fret on the 5th string, and I have the same E with exactly the same pitch on the 4th string from the bottom on my 2nd fret. That's also E. Now they do sound slightly different because of the thickness of the string. I also have A on my top string, 5th fret, and that's the same pitch as my A open string, 5th fret. We also have octaves, which are 12 semitones apart. So if I was to start on my A note on the top string, which is a 5th fret, and come down to my D string or my 4th string and play the 7th fret, that's also an A. So they're both A's, but they're 12 semitones apart. Now we can also use the chromatic scale to name all the notes on the neck of the guitar, but we'll do that in a later lesson. Let's try some tuning. Now let's learn how to tune the guitar with the tuner. Don't try and do it by ear, you need to be playing for a while before you try that. Now tuning is something you'll need to practice. The first time you try it, it may take you 5 or 10 minutes, but after a while you'll do it in less than a minute. So each time you pick up the guitar, give it a tune. Now let's go over some of the tips to make it easier for you. First, we must know the names of the open strings. So if you're a little unsure, go back and watch the previous lecture. Make sure when you're tuning to be turning the right tuning peg. If you're holding the wrong one, there's a good chance you'll break the string of the one you're turning. Now when we're tuning, we won't be using our left hand on the fretboard, so hold on to the peg the whole time. I see a lot of beginners play the note, then look at their tuner, then try and find the tuning peg. And by the time they've done that, the tuner's moved. When you're tuning, use little movements. If you're doing full turns, your tuner will be jumping all over the place and it's hard to follow. Now the last tip, if your tuning pegs are on the top, anti-clockwise will tighten the string or raise the pitch. Clockwise will loosen the string and lower the pitch. Now the tuning pegs on the bottom, it's opposite. So clockwise to tighten, anti-clockwise to loosen. So let's start tuning. Let's use our app for our iPad and start tuning. We're going to start on our 6th string and work our way down to the 1st string or their bottom E. Two things we have to worry about. First, we want to pitch right. So we've got to make sure it's saying E when I'm playing my top E string. Then I'm going to fine tune it and get the needle to the center. So we can see it's saying E there. So that's the first step done. We're on the right string and it's nearly close to the pitch. We just have to fine tune it now. You can see it's on the left hand side of the 0. That means the note is flat. Whenever we're on the left hand side, that means the note's flat and we have to tighten the string. So anti-clockwise is going to tighten it up. If we're on the right hand side of the 0, means the note's sharp and we have to loosen the string. So let's now fine tune it and get it on the 0. Now it's giving me a tick, but we want to get as close to the 0 as possible. So we're pretty close there, so we're good. Once you've done that, give the string a bit of a pull. It can sometimes get caught on the nut there, and then tune it again. So we're good to go. Next, let's have a look at our A string and see what it's saying. So it's saying A, 5th string, so again, we're doing the right string and we're nearly in tune. We've just got to fine tune it again, and again the note is flat, so left hand side of the 0. So let's go and fine tune that up now to the 0s. So anti-clockwise, I'm tightening my string. And again, get it closest to the 0 as possible. And we're right there. Give the string a bit of a pull, make sure nothing's getting caught, tune again. And we're okay there. Next, let's do our D string. And again, it's saying D, so we're correct. We just have to fine tune it up. Again, my note is flat, so I have to tune it up to the 0. So tightening my string. And I'm on my 0 and I'm good to go. So let's have a look at our clip-on tuner and try that for the bottom 3 strings. Now that our top 3 strings are in tune and we used our iPad app, let's do the bottom 3 strings this time and let's use our clip-on tuner. So grab your tuner out, clip it onto the head of your guitar. With the first 3 strings, or the top 3 strings, I deliberately made them flat so we had to tighten the string to get it into tune. This one here, I'm going to make the bottom 3 sharp and see what we have to do. So let's start with our G string, so the 3rd from the bottom, and we play that note and get our hand on our tuning peg. So you can see it says G, so we're right there, but it's sharp, so it's the right hand side of our 0, so we have to go and flatten the string. Now when something's sharp, make the note flat, then come up to it. So you can see we're on our 0 and we're good on that one. So again, if it's sharp, make it flat, then come up to the note there. And we're on our G and we're in the centre, so we're good to go. Let's have a look at our B string, so second from the bottom. You can see again it says B, so we're good there, but it's sharp, so we have to fine tune it. So once again, go back, make it flat, and then bring it up to the centre by tightening. And our last one, our E string. We're on E, so we're good there, but we're sharp, so we have to loosen the string to make it flat. And we go past and make it flat, and then come back up to the centre. Your tuner may jump around a little bit, and that's okay. Get it as close as possible. Now that we've tuned the whole guitar, you may be wondering why I needed to know the chromatic scale. Let's go over that as well. So we just tuned the guitar then, but everything was pretty close, so we only had to do small movements to make them a little bit sharper or a little bit flatter. If our guitar's horribly out of tune, we need to know the chromatic scale and how it works to get our notes in tune. So I was to play my G string, third from the bottom, and it says F on my tuner, so I'm down. So what I do is I have a look at my chromatic scale, and I have my G. If it's on the left hand side, the note which is saying F, we need to tighten it all the way up to G before we can do our fine tuning. So let's do that. F, and you can see it goes to F sharp, which is a note closer to G. Keep tightening. Now we're on our G, and we fine tune up to our G. And we're good to go. Let's have a look if one is sharp. So I'm going to take my G again, and I'm going to deliberately make that note sharp. So you can see now it's gone to G sharp. If I have a look at my chromatic scale again, it's on the right hand side this time of G, so I have to tune it down to get it back to G. And as we said, go flat and bring it up to the note there. So that's tuning. It does take a little bit of practice, but you'll get it. So to wrap that up, we learn how to name the strings with numbers and notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, starting on the bottom and moving to the top. We also used an acronym, Eddie, 8, Dynamite, Goodbye, Eddie. So E, A, D, G, B and E. We did a quick guide on how to tune the guitar and some tips to use while tuning. We looked at different terms we use when moving around the neck of the guitar, so up the guitar, moving from a low note to a high note, and down, moving from a high note to a low note, and up the scale again, moving from a low note to a high note, and down the scale, moving from a high note to a low note. We looked at what a tone is and what a semitone is. So a semitone is 1 fret forward or backwards on any string, and a tone is 2 frets forward or backward on any string. We learnt what a flat and a sharp are and how to write them and how to relate that to the guitar. So a sharp, 1 fret forward, a flat, 1 fret back. We learnt what the chromatic scale was and how to relate that to the guitar. Then we went over how to tune the guitar with 2 different tuners, what to do if the note is sharp or flat, and how to use a chromatic scale when tuning. Looking at our checklist, we need to know how to name the strings with numbers and notes, the terms we use moving around the neck, what a tone and semitone are, and a sharp and a flat, and how to relate that to the guitar. Now remember the notes of the chromatic scale and how to tune your guitar. Now tuning is really important, but if you want to jump in and start playing, just do the quick guide to tuning, then come back to this section at a later date and watch all the videos.